Hey y'all, I'm back and I have more creepy stories that I'm so nervous to read. These are more of your Let's Not Meet stories. We're gonna get right into it. This first story says, man watching us from the window and almost kidnapped. Hey guys, I recently shared my paranormal experiences and the post reached a lot of people, which was so cool. So I decided to share 2 of my Let's Not Meet stories as well. I'm gonna try to keep them pretty short, but I'm a yapper, so sorry if they're long. Same. Number 1, the man in the window watching us. The story happened just this past summer. I'm a nanny. One of the families I work for had gone out of town and asked if I could house sit for a few days. She said I could invite people over to hang out with me. Her house was fairly large, so I had invited my best friend to come over and watch movies so I wasn't alone. With the layout of the house, the living room could be seen from the street. There was a large L-shaped sectional. Half of it sat under the window that faced the street. The other half sat with its back to the door that also faces the street. My friends and I finished watching our movies and had ended up talking on the couch for several hours. By this point, it was maybe somewhere between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m. I have to describe how we were sitting for this to make sense. I sat in the corner of the sectional facing my friend. To the right was my window, which was literally up against the couch, and behind me was the front door. My friend mirrored me. She sat facing me with the window to her left, and she could see the door behind me. The door made a weird creaking / popping sound. I turned to look at it because it sounded like someone was putting their full weight on the door. I got goosebumps and a bad feeling, but after watching the door for a moment, it never opened or made another noise, so I assumed it was nothing. I laughed it off and told my friend, "Sounds like someone's trying to break in." She laughed too and was like, "That would be so scary if there was somebody outside." Out of instinct, she turns to look out the window and screams. This girl scares easily, but this was a fear I've never heard before. Within seconds, she's sprinting to the back of the house to the bathroom. I didn't even think twice or look at what she saw before I was sprinting with her. The whole time I'm scared, but for some reason I'm giggling because I assume that it's not something serious and she's being dramatic. But as we get to the bathroom, my best friend tells me that when she looked out the window, she had seen a man's face no more than 3 inches from the window, right over my shoulder, looking right at us. This means that that man was about 5 inches from my face, only separated by glass. I was no longer giggling. I freak out and start calling my guy friends, who just happen to be hanging out together down the street, and I'm sobbing while telling them what happened, and they began racing over as fast as they could. While sitting there crying on the bathroom floor, we hear footsteps, and we realize we left the backyard sliding glass door wide open earlier to get some summer air in. We were too panicked to close it. This man was now in the lower level of the house with us. I'm gonna throw up. I pressed myself against the door as me and my friends silently cried. Thankfully, it wasn't long before we could hear my guy friends busting in and chasing the guy out. Apparently, he booked it back out the sliding door as soon as he saw them and disappeared into the woods behind the house. They each took turns walking the perimeter of the house, checking to see if he came back or if they could find him. Needless to say, the boys slept in the living room with us that night, and I called the homeowner and told her I had to cut the house sitting short. To the man who was watching us, let's not ever meet again. I absolutely hated that, the fact that he came into the house. Oh my god, because I really just thought it was going to be him watching through the window, which is terrifying nonetheless, but like the fact that he got in, oh my god. Number 2 says attempted kidnapping, like as if that could get any worse. On my 12th birthday, 2 of my friends were sleeping over at my house. We lived in a super suburban area, cookie cutter houses, families in every house, town so safe that nobody cared to lock the doors most nights. It was because our town was so safe, we let our guards down and almost got ourselves kidnapped. By midnight, we had done all of the usual sleepover activities, movies, board games, truth or dare, etc., and now we're bored. So we decided it would be a good idea to walk a few neighborhoods over to the local park, which my mom allowed us to do for some reason. I mean, like you said, it was a safe area, like I don't know. As we arrived at the park around 12:30, we noticed a few cars in the parking lot, one being a little Honda, seeming to have some teenagers in it, and one being a white van. We made jokes about how creepy it was that a white van was here late at night, and that they seemed like the type to offer candy to kids, etc. Unfortunately, we didn't realize we were actually joking about something that would soon be real to us. As we hung out at the park, the Honda, along with a few other cars, had came and went, but the van stayed. Headlights shining on the playground, just sitting there facing us, engine off. Eventually, we started getting creeped out and decided to leave. Unfortunately, the van was next to the exit of the park, so we had to walk past it to get out. As we did, the passenger door popped open and the man in the passenger seat yelled, "Get in the van." We may have been young, but we weren't stupid. We booked it as fast as we could, went out of the parking lot and across the street to the local gas station. We had been hoping that if there were people around, the men wouldn't try to grab us, but unfortunately, when we approached the gas station, we were horrified to realize it had closed early that night, our only opportunity of being safe. I still remember the sinking feeling in my gut when reality hit me. We were alone, on foot, with men in a van chasing us. My friend's phone was dead and there was nobody around. Despite how hopeless we were, we kept sprinting. As we did, I was repeatedly calling and calling my mother, getting voicemail each time. By this point, the van was parallel to us on the road, and it seemed like the men were trying to calculate how to grab us from the sidewalk while still moving fast enough to keep up with us. Thankfully, in that moment, my mom answered the phone and we just screamed as much information as we could while we were running. After doing this, we approached a bike path and turned down it. It's hard to explain the layout, but it was essentially an alleyway for bikes to take, a shortcut that cars couldn't. I totally understand what you mean. Turning down the path was literally what saved our lives. The driver was slowed down because he had to stop and turn around before they could follow us down the bike path. That small amount of delay allowed my mom to speed to us and come screeching up. I don't think she even came to a full stop before she had us sleeping in the car and speeding off again and arriving home safely. To the men in the van who tried to kidnap us, let's not meet again. Your life is insane and what the hell? What the hell? No, yeah, those are two absolutely terrifying stories and I'm so sorry that they both happened to you. Like, those are both from the same person. What the hell? This next story is not any better. It says the time when my friends and I got followed by two guys. So almost kidnapped, I'm assuming again. Hi Courtney, just wanting to start this off by saying that I've been watching your channel for years and I love you and your videos. A couple of years ago, I got my mom into watching your videos and now we watch them together all the time. My mom loves you. Stop! Wait, you're gorgeous, thank you. And keep up the good work. This is a really long story. You're sweet. And I love that you and your mom watch me together, like, bonding. Love that. Sometime a couple months ago, my best friend, who I'll call Kate, and I were hanging out one evening at the park by our houses. We live in a relatively safe neighborhood in Arizona where nothing strange ever really happens, majority of the time. Anyways, as we're hanging out, it started getting late, so my mom texted me telling me to come home. So Kate and I got up and we started to walk down the sidewalk. As we were walking, Kate decides to turn around and walk backwards to tell me something, and that's when she spotted the two guys walking close behind us. Points them out to me, and I noticed them too. She turns to walk normally, and we start walking a little faster while also laughing because we're uncomfortable. They eventually moved to the opposite side of the sidewalk, and so because of that, we thought we were just being paranoid. However, we keep glancing at them, and each time we do so, they're already looking at us. We get to the end of the sidewalk, we go to cross the road to get to the other sidewalk, and as we're crossing, we notice they are too. Now they're basically trying to get back on the same sidewalk that we're on. We both get weirded out and turn to go on a different sidewalk, if that makes sense. I got you. We keep looking over and we notice that they're still watching us. We eventually get to the end of that sidewalk too, so we continue going straight to get to the other side, and once again, so do they. Now we're on this narrow sidewalk that leads down to more parks, and they're walking in the rocks just to stay behind us. Now we both get to the section of the sidewalk where you can either go left to one park and right to another. We were going to the left because that park is really close to my house, but because they were on the left side, we had to go right. Now we're walking down the path to get to this other park and they start speed walking, like literally fucking Olympic style speed walking right next to us, but in the grass. At this point, Katie and I are shitting bricks because we both thought that something bad was going to happen to us. We get to the part on this sidewalk where we can either go straight then left, which is another route that's close to my house, or go left and take a really fucking long time to get to my house. We choose left because the other option didn't have houses on either side and we didn't want to be in a secluded area with these guys. Start walking left and we decide to see where the guys are at now, and they're sitting on the benches at the park, watching as we walk by. We get to the corner of the sidewalk and look back and see they had gotten up and started walking down the sidewalk too. What the hell? I started freaking out and decided to call my mom, and we told her where we were. We turn another corner and we see this old man sitting in his driveway, so we go up to him and start talking to him. That's so smart. We didn't mention the guys, but we just started complimenting him on his Christmas lights he has every year. The guys eventually turned the corner and saw us talking to the man, and they just started sprinting. We eventually stopped talking to the man, and then I called my mom again, and she was like, "Girl, look behind you." And she was right there in her car. Kate and I get in, she drops her off at her house, and once Kate leaves the car, I just absolutely bawl my eyes out. So the creepy guys that wouldn't fucking leave my friend and I alone, let's never meet again. Honestly, I don't care if they weren't even trying to be sketchy or weird or do anything bad. Don't act like that. I'm so sorry. Like, you just don't act like that. There have been so many instances I've seen, like on TikTok, where a guy will be like, it's just something about, there was a girl walking in front of me, so I crossed the street so she wouldn't feel like she was in danger. Why would you follow them like that? I don't care if you weren't doing anything. You don't need to do that. It's obviously going to be scary for them, especially when you're following every move they make. Like, what the hell? If you thought we were done with the kidnapping stories, you're not. This one's called Almost Kidnapped, plus a short funny story if you want to ease yourself after someone else's dramatic story. Hi Courtney, I'm a female in high school right now, and the story took place in 7th grade. P.S. I love you. I've been looking for YouTubers to watch, and you always make me laugh and question my existence and safety. Sorry! If you use this for a video, please shout out Ag's cat. Ag's cat. Hey Ag's cat. Is that someone's cat, I think? I love you. Almost Kidnapped. Pretty short, but a quite scary story nonetheless. I was raised in this safe neighborhood, a private property cul-de-sac where everyone knew each other. Many families here had kids, every kid knew each other and went to the same schools. This is important for the story. One day in 4th grade, me and my sister were getting ready for school, and I had the genius idea of challenging her to see who could tie their shoes and run to the bus stop the fastest. The bus stop was one door down and 6 other kids would be there too, so it'd be safe, right? Note, next to the bus stop was another smaller cul-de-sac. Anyways, school started at 9, and I think it might have been 8:45 or something. My mom always wanted us to be early, so we would usually play with the other kids at the bus stop while waiting. I won the challenge and ran to the bus stop, and for some reason, it was empty. No kids in sight. There's a small bench there that another family put there for kids to sit on while they're waiting, so I sat down and I waited for everyone else. Then came one of those big white vans with tinted windows and a locked back, the kind that everyone's mother would tell you about. I was a smart kid who loved mystery books and riddles and stuff like that. I watched the van pull into the neighborhood and my gut told me, something's off. Watch the van. Those creepy white vans pulled into the neighborhood all the time, but they always had some logo for landscaping or a business or something like that. As a curious child who loved riddles and was keen to noticing things, I paid attention to the van and realized there were no markings on it. I watched it slow down a little while passing me, and then it zoomed into the smaller cul-de-sac I mentioned before. I thought it was suspicious that it slowed down when it saw me and then sped to the cul-de-sac, but it was gone, right? Not to worry about, right? I watched the van use the cul-de-sac to speed back in front of the bus stop I was seated at and come to a full, fast stop right in front of me, at a grabbing distance. I was paying attention to every weird thing about this van and kind of knew it was coming to get me. Before it swung its door open, I ran behind me to the door closest to my house, which was safe because it was my mom's best friend's house and she had kids I was best friends with. I pretended I was going to open the door and shouted, "Mom!" and the van drove away out of the neighborhood quicker than I'd ever seen a car drive before. I wish I had gotten a look at the license plate, but I didn't. I don't know why, but I didn't tell anyone that day and only told my parents a week or two later as a funny story, which they didn't believe until I brought it up again, as, again, this was a safe neighborhood. Anyway, to the guy who tried to kidnap me before I went to school, I would say let's not meet, but I feel like this story shaped me to be the true crime and self-defense fanatic I am today. And I do kind of want to meet you and make sure you have no hands you can use to ever try and grab another child to kidnap. No, chop their hands off. That is so fucking terrifying. The door swinging open just right in front of you. Dude, I literally can't handle this. But like they said, they included a little funny short story. Hopefully it erases my memory. I was in middle school and a quiet kid most times, but there were a lot of mean popular kids at school who I would constantly stand up to when they were trying to bully me or others. Good for you. It was right after lunch and one of these kids and his paparazzi were walking past me in my locker, which I was trying to grab my binder out of. I moved to the right to grab a pencil that fell, and a pack of apple slices scraped my shoulder. I looked behind me and the guys were laughing at me, even though they should have been embarrassed because of terrible aim, and this guy said he wanted to play at the NBA. Please. I was like 12 and a short little girl and he's walking away with his fan base. Thing is, he's tall. This was 7th grade and he was 6 foot. So even crowded by his friends, I could easily make out which one of them was him. I mustered up all the strength in my tiny little 4'9" body and threw the apple slice pack as hard as I could and it hit him square in the back of the head. I love that for you. I heard it thwack loudly and he jumped and ducked at the same time like a cartoon after impact, and he turned around to see me laughing my butt off. There was a teacher who saw everything go down and he started yelling at her to give me detention or something, but she immediately dismissed him and told him to get a life and go to his next class. I hope you enjoyed the stories. I do love that. Honestly, that really did make it all better. It really did. All right, well, that's all I have for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any other stories you want to share with me or the community, I will have my subreddit linked down below. I apologize again, but I'm not going to ramble at the end of this, only because I really am trying to get a bunch of stuff so I can just make one long rambly video. And I feel like I just keep telling you guys the really minuscule things that happen, and that's the whole point of the rambly video, so I can tell you the stupid shit that happens to me. So we're gonna hold off. We're gonna hold off for a little bit on the rambling at the end of the videos. I'm gonna give you one long giant ramble, one long life update, and I hope you appreciate that. Or do you hate that? Do you want just rambles? I don't know. So I'm gonna go. But I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.